Thomas the Tank Engine was feeling bright and cheerful. It was a splendid day.
Good morning.
He whistled to some cows, but the cows didn't reply.
Never mind.
Said Thomas.
They're busy with their breakfast.
Next, he saw Birdie.
Hello, Birdie. Care for a race today?
But all Birdie could say was, "Ouch! That's another hole in the road."
I'm sorry, Birdie.
Smiled Thomas. Thomas was still in good spirits when Birdie arrived at the next station.
Bad luck, Birdie. Now, if you're a steam engine, you will run a pair of reliable rails.
"Huh," replied Birdie. "The railway is supposed to deliver the tar to mend the road 2 weeks ago. You can't trust a thing that runs on rails."
I run on rails. You can trust me, Birdie. I'll see if I can find out what's happened.
And Thomas puffed away towards the big station. James was snorting about in the yard. "It's too bad," he grumbled. "Percy goes to work at the harbor and I do his job, here, there, and everywhere. Take that!" "Oh," groaned the freight cars. "Just you wait. We'll show you." Gordon laughed. "I'll tell you what, James. If you pretend to ill, you couldn't shut freight cars here or go to the quarry there, could you?" "What a good idea," agreed James. "Look, here comes Thomas. I'll start pretending now." Thomas was sorry to see the engines looking miserable.
Cheer up. It's a beautiful day.
"Yes," grumbled Gordon, "but not for James."
What's the matter?
"He's sick," replied Gordon. "Yes, he is. I mean, I am," stuttered James. "I don't feel well at all,"
Don't worry.
said Thomas kindly.
I'll help out if you're ill.
Gordon and James sniggered quietly to each other. Some of James's cars were coupled behind Thomas, and he steamed away to the quarry. The cars were still cross. "We couldn't pay James back for bumping us, so we'll play tricks on Thomas instead. One engine is as good as another." But Thomas didn't hear them. He collected all the stone from the quarry and set off back to the junction. Danger lay ahead. "Now for our plan," giggled the cars. "Go faster! Go faster!" They pushed Thomas over the switches. "Slow down," called Thomas's driver, and applied the brakes. Poor Thomas stood dazed and surprised in a muddy pond, as a toad eyed him suspiciously.
Bust my buffers.
Mumbled Thomas.
The day started so well, too.
Duck pulled away the cars, and Edward helped Thomas back to the junction. Suddenly, Thomas remembered the missing tar. He told Edward all about it. "That's strange," said Edward. "A car full of tar has been left at my station. That must be it. Driver will make sure it gets to Birdie now." Later, James spoke to Thomas. "I'm sorry about your accident," he muttered. "And so is Gordon. We didn't mean to get you into trouble." "No, indeed," spluttered Gordon. "A mere misunderstanding, Thomas. All's well that ends well." Just then, Birdie arrived. He looked much more cheerful. "My road's been mended now,"
Oh, I am glad.
replied Thomas. "Thanks for all you did," added Birdie. "Now I know I can trust an engine, especially if his name is Thomas." Gordon and James puffed silently away to the shed, but Thomas still had company.
Well, well.
He sighed.
What a day for surprises.
The toad, who was looking forward to a ride home, noisily agreed. One early morning, Sir Top Hat came to the train yard. "Good morning, Thomas," he said. "I have big news. We're adding a passenger train to one of the freight branch lines. Because you have been doing such a good job, we want you to pull the new train once a day." Thomas felt proud. There would be new tracks to ride on, a new platform to stop at, and a new station house to see. All for Thomas. Of course, there will be more passengers, said Sir Topham Hatt, and more work.
Oh, don't worry.
Thomas told him in a boastful way.
I can do it. It'll be easy.
The other engines weren't so sure. You must go slowly at first, Edward said. You must listen to your driver and be careful not to get lost. Thomas was too excited to pay attention to old Edward.
He might have trouble with new tracks, but not me. I am a really useful engine. That's why I'm getting at the station.
The new passenger train was to start running the very next day. This is a very important event, Sir Topham Hatt told everyone. People will be coming from miles around. Thomas wanted to look his best, so that afternoon he was carefully washed down. Then he got a bright new paint job.
Now I look shiny and new. I look just the way a really useful engine should.
The next day, when Thomas' paint was quite dry, his coaches, Annie and Clever, got into place. The driver climbed into the cab and they were off. Clickety-clack, Thomas was heading for the new station. Make sure you read the signs along the tracks, Sir Topham Hatt called to him. Remember, Thomas, this is a new way for you to go. Edward shouted after Thomas, too. Be careful, he said. You don't want to lose your way. But Thomas wasn't listening.
Beep, beep,
he said as he chugged along.
I know what to do. I know what to do.
Soon Thomas picked up speed. Clackety-clang, clackety-clack. Slow down, said his driver. We have to be sure we are going the right way. But Thomas only went quicker. He did not listen to Sir Topham Hatt. He did not listen to Edward. And he was not going to listen to his driver.
Beep, beep,
he said.
I know where to go. I know where to go.
Now Thomas was going even faster. He whizzed past houses. He sped past farms and lakes. Clackety-clack, clackety-clack. Signs went by in a flash. Slow down, his driver said again. We must read the signs. But Thomas didn't stop to read them. He wanted to get to the station as fast as he could. He wanted everyone to know he was a really useful engine. Soon, Thomas grew tired. He slowed down just a bit and looked all around the countryside. He saw a water tower and cows grazing in a meadow, but they didn't look familiar.
Oh my,
said Thomas.
Where am I? I didn't listen to the Topham Hatt. I went on my driver. I didn't even read the signs. I wasn't careful at all.
Clackety-clack, clackety-clack. Thomas came to a stop. He felt just awful. Sir Topham Hatt was waiting for him at the new railroad station with all the new passengers. And where was Thomas? Lost?
Maybe I am not a real useful engine after all,
Thomas said sadly. A big tear rolled down his cheek. Then Thomas sighed, and a puff of smoke billowed out of his smoke box. Is that you, Thomas? Cried a voice in the distance. It was Sir Topham Hatt coming around the bend. I saw your smoke. Now move along. Everything is ready.
Beep, beep,
said Thomas.
The railroad station was just down the track.
Thomas started up once more.
How silly I am,
thought Thomas.
Of course nothing looks familiar. I've never been here before. If only I read the signs. Then I would have known I was going the right way all along.
And Thomas hurried along the tracks. Cloggety-clack. Hooray! Hooray! The passengers shouted when they saw Thomas. Flags waved in the air, and a band began to play. Sir Topham Hatt said, Everything on board. All aboard, Thomas! Thomas smiled. He was in the new railroad station, and just in time. But then Thomas looked at his driver. He looked at Sir Topham Hatt. They did not look pleased, and Thomas knew something still wasn't right.
I'm sorry.
He said to both of them.
I should have listened. I should have been more careful. Then I would have known I wasn't lost. I would have known I was going the right way all along.
Back at the train yard, Thomas said the same thing to Edward.
I should have listened to you.
He told his friend.
I should not have gone so quickly.
Now, Thomas was happy. He knew next time he'd do it right. Next time he'd be a really useful engine. And sure enough, Thomas was clackety-clack, clackety-clack. The following day, Thomas crossed carefully along the new tracks and headed straight to his new station. Thomas the Tank Engine enjoys taking special. Today, he was bringing a special to Brendam Docks. His load was to go onto a cargo ship. The ship was scheduled to depart at sundown. Thomas had to get to the docks before then, but the load was very heavy, so Thomas puffed as hard as he could. He pulled so hard, he broke his coupling rod. He wasn't going anywhere.
Oh no,
Thomas said.
I'll be late.
His driver saw an old shed near the track. If there's a telephone in there, I could call for help, he said.
Hurry,
Said Thomas.
and be careful. It looks spooky.
Then a voice boomed from inside the shed.
Do you mind? I'm trying to sleep.
Thomas hoped it wasn't a ghost. Then his driver appeared.
Is it a ghost?
It's a surprise, his driver teased. Then the fireman took some of Thomas's coal and headed off to the shed. She can get us to the fitter's yard, his driver said. If her boiler holds, added the fireman anxiously.
What kind of surprise is that?
Thomas wondered. Thomas, meet Elizabeth, said his driver. At last, the doors were opened and out shoved a dirty, grimy steam truck.
So you're the little puffer that's broken down.
Thomas was cross.
And you're just an old steam truck.
That would be vintage steam truck.
Snapped Elizabeth.
And I haven't much time for your coupling rods.
The driver was concerned. Elizabeth was making awful grinding sounds. She's not built for hills, he said anxiously. You're losing steam, he called.
Just catching my breath.
Elizabeth chuckled. And finally, she made it. When Elizabeth returned with Thomas's coupling rods, she was pleased with herself.
And next time, don't be so careless.
She scolded. Thomas thought Elizabeth was the rudest trunk he had ever met, but he was happy to get his new coupling rods. Thomas made it to the docks just in time. What took you so long? Said Sir Topham Hatt. Thomas told him about his broken coupling rods. He wanted to tell him how rude Elizabeth had been when she rolled up.
Oh, it's you.
Said Elizabeth, looking down at Sir Topham Hatt.
Have you learned to drive properly yet?
She's in a lot of trouble now.
Thomas said to his driver. Elizabeth, said Sir Topham Hatt frowningly. My first truck! I thought you had been lost. They were old friends. It was too much for Thomas. Then Elizabeth told Sir Topham Hatt how she had been left in the shed for years. Sir Topham Hatt was so pleased Elizabeth had been found. He asked Jen Cole to restore her to her original beauty. And soon, Elizabeth had a rich dark color and gleaming coach works. "You're the grandest truck in the whole railway," Sir Topham Hatt said proudly.
I know.
Said Elizabeth, even more proudly. And Thomas had to agree. She did look grand. At harvest time, the air is filled with the smell of fresh fruit and vegetables. The engines happily delivered their loads to market. But one day, mist and rain swirled down Toby's line. Percy was delivering a load of fresh tomatoes. Suddenly, he felt a big bump. "Bust my buffers!" Percy cried. "What was that?" The guard put out the warning flags while Percy's driver inspected the tracks. "The earth's crumbling," he said. "We must tell Sir Topham Hatt," decided Percy. Percy puffed back as fast as he could. "I've got important news. The tracks on Toby's line are wobbly." Huffed Gordon. "Old and wobbly, just like Toby. That's not news. Can't stop to listen to your silly chatter." "Gordon never listens to me," murmured Percy. Next, he spoke to Sir Topham Hatt. "Sir! Sir!" "Not now, Percy. Thomas, you are to collect the prize bull. He's at the farm on Toby's line."
Yes, sir.
"But those tracks are wobbly," cried Percy. "They are safe enough," said Sir Topham Hatt.
Bye, Percy.
"Nobody ever listens to me." Thomas was cheerfully chumping through the rain. Soon, he had collected the farmer's bull and was on his way back. The rain had made the tracks more wobbly than ever. Suddenly, there was a deep rumbling sound. Thomas's driver applied the brakes, but it was too late.
Cinders and ashes.
Cried Thomas.
We're stuck.
And they were. Late that night, Thomas still hadn't returned. Percy was worried. "Thomas is in trouble," he said. Gordon and James took no notice. "Wobbly wheels," huffed Gordon. "Fussy funnel," said James. "Please," Percy asked his driver, "can we find Thomas?" "Right away," said his driver. Percy was nervous, but his lamp shone brightly in the dark. The tracks creaked and wobbled, but Percy passed on.
Percy!
Cried Thomas. Thomas was happy to see his friend. "I'll have you out there in no time," said Percy. Percy puffed and pulled and pulled and puffed, and finally Thomas and his driver were free.
Oh, thank you.
Said Thomas. "I'm glad to be useful," smiled Percy. It was dawn before the track was cleared. Then Percy and Thomas made their way back home. "Thomas is here," whistled Percy.
Percy saved the day.
Said Thomas. Agreed the bull. I'm sorry, Percy, said Sir Topham Hatt. We must do a better job of listening to you in the future. Percy was pleased. Peep, peep! Here comes Thomas the Tank Engine. Thomas and his friends work hard every day. Thomas does not want to work today. It is his birthday. He wants a party with presents, balloons, and silly hats. But Sir Topham Hatt says, Henry is busy, Gordon is busy, James is busy. You must work today, Thomas. So Thomas goes to his branch line. Back and forth, back and forth. He carries people. He carries animals. He carries wood. He carries grain. Thomas sees his friends near the engine shed. No one says happy birthday. No one says a word about presents, balloons, or silly hats. At the end of the day, Thomas heads home.
Those engines did not look so busy to me.
Oh no, a cow is on the line,
Move!
says Thomas. Moo, says the cow,
No, no, no!
says Thomas.
Not moo! Move!
At last, the cow moves. Thomas is late. Thomas is tired. Some birthday. Sir Topham Hatt opens the doors to the dark shed. Thomas chugs inside. Lights come on. Surprise! Say all Thomas's friends. We were busy, says Henry. We were busy making a pie for you, says James. It is a wonderful party. There are presents, balloons, and silly hats to wear. Happy birthday, Thomas!
He's a really useful engine, you know. All the other engines, they'll tell you so. He huffs and puffs and whistles, rushing to and fro. He's the really useful engine we adore. He's a really useful engine, you know. 'Cause the Fat Controller, he told him so. Now he's got a branch line to